Good evening, everyone. If we could have everybody take their seats, we'd like to get started because our goal is to get you out of here before 9 o'clock tonight. Um, so thank you all for coming. My name's David Schmidt. I am the chair of the steering committee for this process, and it just goes to prove, to paraphrase General Douglas MacArthur, old mayors don't die or even get to fade away. We just get appointed to some committee like this. But it's an honor and a pleasure to serve on this committee. I was on the Planning and Zoning Board when we wrote the first comprehensive plan in 1989, so it's kind of coming full circle for me. Let me see. Okay, I even got the PowerPoint to work. This is an overview of our schedule for this evening. As I said, we're hoping to get you out of here before 9 o'clock at the very latest. We do have a steering committee that has been, there we go, appointed by the City Commission. I know most, if not all of them, are here this evening. If you all could just maybe stand up so people can see who you are, please, on the steering committee. We had our first meeting recently, and it's a very diverse group, a very engaged group, and I know we're all looking forward to working with you on this process of updating the comprehensive plan. Assisting the steering committee, we have our city staff, headed by Tim Stillings, our planning director, Mark Stivers, Jasmine, and Danae, and our consultants from Calvin Giordano and Associates. With us tonight, we have Sarah Probst and Richard Canoni. I don't think I saw any elected officials sneak in, did I, that I need to recognize? Okay, I think, see Francis back there, our assistant city manager, Francis Romaglia. Francine, excuse me. Just briefly, you know, one of the things that's been a hallmark in Delray has been citizen involvement in our planning process. If you go back as far as the Atlantic Avenue Task Force, Old School Square, Visions 2000, the first comprehensive plan, the capital improvement of the comp plan that led to the $21 million Decade of Excellence bond issue, and on and on and on. A key component to all of those plans has been citizen participation and then assistance in implementation of it. And we have to remember that those plans, to be successful, have to be plans of the people, not for the people. So your participation in this update is critical, and again, we thank you for participating. This meeting is the first of your opportunities to help us write this guidebook for the future of Delray. Just a couple of points. These are personal from having been to about 2,000 of these planning meetings over the years. Everyone's equal in this process. As I used to say, check your ego at the door. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. I can't tell you how many times over the years I heard as we went through these various planning meetings, well, we're only 12 square miles. What can we do to plan? We're so small. Or we're built out. Well, why do we need to do future land use planning? Well, a city that doesn't evolve is going to die. And you can take a look at what's going on Federal Highway south of Atlantic, how that's changing. And you may have an idea that may not be able to take fruition for another 10 years. But don't be afraid to put out ideas like that tonight. As I say, my personal opinion is there are no crazy ideas. There's only crazy people. So anyways, thank you again for your participation. I'd like to introduce Richard Canoni, who's going to give you an overview of the process and introduce the presentations this evening.
Good evening. Again, Richard Canoni with Calvin Giordano and Associates. I'm a planning administrator with the firm, and I have the joy of doing this. I actually really really enjoy coming out working with the community. So this is the first of many meetings. So hopefully I get to see a lot of you at some of our other meetings. One of the things to sort of pick up on the participation is we start doing some polls, some polling. If you had a chance when you walked in, you should have got a handout. And if you have your phone with you, if you can everyone hear me? If you don't mind typing into your web browser the address that you see above, which is delrayplay.participole.com. And what that will do is your phone will turn into a keypad. So if you just take a couple minutes, it'll look like the keypad on the bottom of the screen there to the left. And what I'd like to do is just quickly go through a series of questions. A lot of them are, not to target you and send you mail throughout the year, but to get a gauge of who's coming to the meetings, but also most importantly, who's not coming and who are we missing, and what we need to do for the following meetings as far as targeting folks. So if everyone's ready, I'll go ahead and begin. So the first question: how long have you lived in the city of Delray Beach? So about 30%, 29%, between 2 to 10 years. Do you currently rent, own, or other? All right. Next question: do you live east of 95 or west of I-95? Interesting. Okay. So the 56% east of 95. And how old are you? So here's the hard question. Here's the hard question. The survey says. All right, pretty good mix. Still not at the 18 to 25. And how did you find out about tonight's workshop? So email and colleague friend. And what is your first language? So why are we here? So the next step, I want to just give a brief overview of Always Delray, and then get into some of the themes and the focus around the community meetings, this being the first one. So again, what is Always Delray? It's live, work, play, grow. It's the new plan. This is sort of the brand that was decided upon, and really we wanted to create themes and sort of group the various elements or chapters of the comprehensive plan. And so the first, live, it'll be the transportation and mobility element, housing, historic preservation, and healthy community. Work, education, intergovernmental coordination, and economic development. Third, play, which is the first of the series of community meetings, coastal management, conservation, open space, and recreation. And finally, grow, public facilities and services, future land use, sustainability and resilience, and public school facilities. Now what we'll go into next are specific presentations from what we're calling our subject matter experts. So you'll hear from city staff regarding conservation conservation and coastal management, as well as open space and parks and recreation. What we'll do from there, we'll take a short break, and then we'll move on over to tabletop discussions, where we'll really get into a little bit more in the details of the category of play. So with that, I'd like to introduce Anna, our first speaker.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming out. It really means a lot to the staff to see that our community is involved and really cares about this plan, because ultimately we are the stewards of the next generation. So my presentation is called Climate Change, Coastlines, and Conservation. And why are these the critical concerns? Because I sit as the sustainability officer, and for me, the issue of climate change is the overarching issue that will impact almost every aspect of the way we plan for the future. And with that context, I'm going to try to show you some of the issues around the climate change and that we have to think about when we move forward with the plan. The presentation is divided into three very brief sections. One is an overview of the greenhouse gas and the climate issue, just as a summary in case you're unfamiliar with that. Then we're going to talk about the challenges and how all of these challenges are interrelated in the way we think about our urbanism, the way we expand, the way we plan and grow. And mostly, things to take forward when you go to the tabletop. Just ideas about what we can do about this. And there are lots of opportunities here. It's just up to you to give us the direction which way you want to proceed. So, just an overview of the basic climate change science. Have you seen this picture before? Okay, if you haven't, think back to high school earth science and why this is all happening. The sun sends down solar radiation. Some of it comes through the atmosphere. Well, some of it bounces off the clouds and goes back into space. Some comes onto the Earth's surface and then bounces back out through the atmosphere. And some of it warms the Earth, its waters, and its land. Some of it then comes back into the atmosphere as infrared and dissipates into the universe. The atmosphere is like a blanket. It can either be a down blanket or it can be a wool blanket. But what happens is if we don't keep the right balance, when we change the composition of the atmosphere, more radiation comes down than can leave. It gets scattered in the atmosphere, both in the troposphere, which is the first layer of the atmosphere, and on the Earth, and it starts to warm. And the implications are that, one, it's melting the ice, the snow on the polar caps, and two, it warms the Earth. So why does this happen? Why did we change the composition of the atmosphere? It's just a process of modernization. We've moved from this type of agriculture to that type of agriculture that then gets shipped in trucks to our urban areas. We moved from industrialization that looked like this to something like this, which consumes more fossil fuels. We've moved from transportation modes like this to that. So what happens? All of these uses of energy, when we burn energy, which is mostly fossil fuel based, we emit three major types of greenhouse gases. Methane and nitrous oxide, small quantities, very potent, but they're small quantities. The big one is the CO2. We emit a lot of CO2. In fact, for the first time in human history, in 2015, the amount of CO2 particles per million reached over 400. And that is like what they say, a tipping point. In South Florida, we produce about 64 million metric tons. We do it through every activity that we encounter. And that's very important. But when we look at South Florida, the biggest components really are transportation and residential, and to somewhat commercial. So what does that tell us? That tells us that we have not just a transportation problem, it's a land use problem. It means that some things are over here and some things are over here, and we have to get back and forth from each of these things. We don't co-locate our activities. So we have large distances that are traveled, and to travel large distances, we burn fuel. So that's the first place we have to look. And because of that, the comp plan is fundamental to the way we think. So the new vision for the comp plan gives us a huge opportunity. It gives us an opportunity to think about the future land uses, where we're going to put the different activities that create our urban space. We have to re-envision the types of transportation modalities that we use. We have to think about the infrastructure and how it's going to adapt. We have to think about the coastal element and the conservation element, which are tonight's discussion, and how open space plays as a balance to some of these issues. So what are the challenges that we face? I'm going to refer to just some of the big categories because I could go on for a long time, and I'm sure you want to get over there. So we have rising land temperatures and declining air quality. We have sea level rise and ocean acidification, precipitation and variability and the storms, the hurricanes, and saltwater intrusion, the one that nobody thinks about because it happens underground. Heat waves. How bad? What are we really anticipating? Well, according to recent studies by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency, we are expecting between 3 to 7 degrees average temperatures increase year-round in Florida. That doesn't sound like a lot, But 3 degrees in average annual temperature is the difference in climate between Florida and Washington, D.C. More importantly, we are anticipating that the summer heat index, the hot times of the year, will increase between 10 degrees and 25 degrees by the end of the century. So this has huge impacts to our lifestyle and to all aspects of our life. Health-wise, when the temperatures go up in the summer, we have a higher incidence of stroke and heart attacks, higher incidences of violence in urban areas. We also get an increased number of patients that present themselves with asthma and respiratory issues. Economics, rising energy costs will cost more, take more money out of our pockets to do other things. We have rising costs for the public sector. How are we going to rebuild some of this infrastructure? We have changing commodities that we're going to be able to sell. Will we be able to grow strawberries? How will our cattle do? What's going to happen to citrus? And of course, a big portion of our economy is tourism. So what happens to tourism if we have that kind of increase? We're going to have fewer snowbirds because the whole country is getting warmer. Why come to Florida if, Maryland is pretty temperate? They may come for a shorter period of time. Let's think of it in reverse. We'll have a shorter season for them. What are we going to do here? Who's going to be here in July? Whoever has a summer home in North Carolina is going to the mountains. So we're going to have a depopulation in the summer, and that's going to impact our retail and our economics as well. The built environment, we're going to have to think about what materials we build things with, what color we paint them. When you wear black in the summer, it's hot. We're going to have to think about the types of materials that can withstand that kind of temperature increase. And things are going to degrade faster because heat just has wear and tear. Finally, we have to think about the environment. There's going to be a change in the habitat, the type of species that we have, the types of birds and bugs. The other issue is sea level rise. This is the big one, and we always talk about it. How much? Well, let's put it in simple terms. Approximately 7 inches from now till 2030, and up to 2 feet by 2060, by mid-century. Let's look at that really carefully because this is a really important chart. If this is the first time, who's the first time you're seeing this? Okay. What do all these lines mean? Well, they started calculating it on base year of 1992. We're now somewhere around here. So we've had already 3 inches of sea level rise from the base. Now we have different projections. We have the IPCC, the US Army Corps of Engineers, and NOAA. And luckily, we have a lot of really good scientists that are concerned about this. And in South Florida, we created a consortia between FIU, FAU, NOAA, and some other research institutions. And they came up with a baseline for the whole region. Before that, everybody was using their own. And when everyone used their own, nobody knew which one to believe. So we decided, as a region, we're going to figure this out and speak in one voice so we can plan off of a similar projection. So the projections for now are between 7 inches and 24 inches by mid-century. If we're planning infrastructure that lasts 20 to 30 years, we can use this projection safely. But the orange one, if you read all the fine print, the orange projections, the most conservative, are for any type of infrastructure investment that's going to last more than 50 years. Power plants, water plants, sewage, big infrastructure that costs lots of money and lasts a long time. We have to be very conservative because there's some variability in our projection. So what does that look like? What does 6 inches really mean to us? Well, let's look at a couple of maps quickly just to get a sense of it. Here's South Florida today. This is what 7 inches will inundate. This is what 24 inches will inundate. This is what 36 will. Luckily, what we see here is a lot of the Everglades, the lowest land that's mostly open space. But let's look at Delray more carefully. Well, we know this is happening because we've already begun to see it. The king tides are a bellwether of what we're anticipating. That's me standing about 2 years ago on Marine Way in about 6 inches of water. So let's look at Delray. This is what it would look like today. Oops, sorry. That's 2 feet. The green areas are low-lying and the blue are underwater. That's 4 feet. But this is not simply a coastal issue, and that's what's so hard for people to understand. Why? We think of the coast and the intercoastal as our low-lying areas, but basically Florida is a big sponge. And when sea level goes up, it fills the sponge from the bottom up. So our retention areas are going to diminish in their capacity, and we're going to have areas that have very little space in their soil to retain water. Once it rains, that depth isn't really there to hold it. So we're going to get puddling inland. Additionally, we have the hurricanes and storm surge. Because we're talking about sea level rise, we also have to remember the temperature. What happens when you heat up water? It expands in its volume, right? That's what's causing the majority of the sea level rise. We also get a lot of evaporation. 1% increase 1% centigrade increase in temperature increases the amount of water vapor by 7%. So those summer storms under that heat index are going to have a lot of water in them. And when it rains a lot and we have stronger storms, the storm surge will be higher. Simply because sea level rises higher and then you get a good strong wind, the storm surge, what would be 15 feet might now be 17 feet. And it's going to push higher and further up on the land, causing all kinds of damage. The other issue is precipitation and variability in the precipitation. Some studies by the South Florida Water Management District project that we could have drier dries and wetter wets. So what does that really mean? Well, to understand why that's a problem, you really have to look at how this whole area was developed. We're sitting on an artificial plumbing system designed by the Army Corps of Engineers about 50 years ago. Originally, let me use the fancy pointer, the water came down into Lake Okeechobee, and Lake Okeechobee was not dammed on the south side. So the water ran as a thin, flat sheet of water all the way down through the Everglades, creating that incredible biodiversity and all that wetlands. Then they came and said, hey, it's nice to live here. Let's drain it all so that we can build homes on it. So we channeled it. We channeled it in about 1,400 miles of canals, which have 200 water control features, and delicately balance the water. It's sort of, a jiggering act where they control the levers to keep the water in balance and nothing gets inundated. But what happens when you change the assumptions that they made on those projections? More water, faster collection. What happens here is, this is today, all these canals feed on a gravity system. It rains here, the water goes into the canal. There's a water control feature that's up. The water fills up into the canal, and at a certain point, the water on this side is higher than the water on that side. So they raise the canal, the water control feature, and the water gushes off, drains the canal, gets low, they close it, and they do it again. It's like breathing. In and out, along with the tides. So what happens when we have sea level rise and more rain? Well, now it rains, and the water fills this canal, but the water here is higher. And by the time, we don't have very much difference between the amount of water that collects here and the amount on this side. If you raise the control feature, very little will pour out. In fact, salt water might come back in if the water control feature is higher. So you're unable to drain the amount of precipitation very quickly. What happens when the outfalls are covered is that the water goes back up the pipe and then spills out into the storm drain system. Or you simply get this kind of inland flooding. So when I told you that it's not a coastal issue, it really isn't. These canals basically go all the way west in Delray. So what happens when we have wetter wets? We can have suddenly 22 inches of rain. The 1 in 100-year storm is happening more and more frequently. And we don't have the capacity in the soil to absorb it, so it takes a longer time to drain it. On the other hand, when it rains so hard and it's been dry after a dry period, the ground just simply can't absorb it that quickly. We get a lot of runoff into our storm drain system. It's, the ground is hard, It gets very wet and you get a big gush of water into the storm drain system. And that, creates salinity issues in the estuaries downstream and such. What happens with the droughts? Well, the natural habitat will suffer. The loss of species diversity will have a habitat shift. The economy will suffer, ag, the food supply, tourism, manufacturing. Most of all, we're here to play, right? What happens to this golf course? Luckily, we have reclaim here, but in general, the grass will get drier, the swimming pools will have to ration the amount of water and when you can water, and that's going to impact our lifestyle, and then we are impacting the value that we have here. Finally, we have life safety issues, water contamination, wildfires, and sinkholes. If you dry out that limestone and it gets powdery, poof. So the last one, before I really, this side's black, right? The doom and gloom. The one that we don't think about, the saltwater intrusion issue. We don't think about it because it's underground and we don't see it. So what is that exactly? Remember I told you we're on a big sponge and we have an aquifer. This is a simplified drawing just to make it clear. And we have an aquifer and we have our wells and we draw off the water supply. If we draw a lot of water because it's a dry period, then this line will move this way because you suck the water out and this salt water will come closer and closer to infiltrating the wells and will contaminate our wells. So, likewise, if we have sea level rise, this line moves over here, and with it, this whole line shifts over. You put those two things together, and the wells that are located very close to the coastline become endangered. Luckily, in Delray, we're kind of in good shape compared to the rest of the South Florida region. If you can see, the red line indicates where the saltwater intrusion line is today. Miami-Dade has already lost wells to their south. This is Delray. We have our wells split, so we have some sort of, closer to the coast, but a lot inland. That's a good thing. Finally, let's look at the quality of life impacts. When we change the quality of life, it's not just the mansion on the intercoastal that's going to get inundated. It's the tax base that it impacts. We need that tax base to keep ourselves going, keeping our, the quality of life and our public services running. But it's not just the rich people on the water. How about these guys? If it's hot and they can't either rent their house or they have to leave, or this house can't water its grass, or they can't come and play golf, the values all over the region are going to go down. And without that tax base, we are not going to have the revenue to fund the kind of infrastructure investment that's going to address the problem. Moreover, if it costs a lot of money to air condition this and our insurance rates are going up to guard against it, what money is going to be left over to spend in downtown, to go out for dinner, to buy clothes? The volume, the kind of vitality that we enjoy will be impacted. At the same time, we're going to have costs. We need to address this problem. We may need to raise these bridges. This is expensive. We may need to retrofit the water plant. If we don't have this tax base, how do we deal with these with these issues? How can we fix them? So let's take a quick look. These are the impacts of 1 foot of sea level rise on the tax base in Palm Beach County. 1 foot doesn't look too bad, about $400 million to maybe $550 million. But if you get to 2 feet by mid-century, we're looking in the billions. The impacts to the economy I already alluded to. There's tourism. There's tourism. How are we going to eat outside if it's too hot or if it rains? What happens to the outdoor shopping plazas that we like to walk around? It's a new model, right? Fishing, boating, even our ports and our trade. But it's not all bad, because out of this can come ingenuity and adaptation and new forms of economic growth. We are the Sunshine State. We could be a leader in solar. Not if that's a high-tech manufacturing, even low-tech manufacturing, awnings, canvas, shade, ag. Even simple things like this kind of water collection system. This looks almost like you could find it in the third world. Can't we devise something a little more attractive? I don't think anybody's HOA would be really happy with that. But if we know that we're going to have a water issue, maybe some of our engineers will start designing new types of infrastructure that we can then export. So we have opportunities in this economic situation. And we have the impacts on the natural environment, the mangroves, the acidification that will cause the coral bleaching. It's all interrelated. That impacts our tourism, and you can start to see how the circle goes round. Finally, the health impacts. The asthma, we've already encountered the Zika, the heart attacks, the heat, the incidences of flooding and accidents that happen. So how do we solve it? This is not just bad news. There is good news here. We have a lot of things that we can do to fix it. So the solutions are really an opportunity. So in my world, I break it down. There's so many possibilities. And some of these I want to introduce to you because we have to decide which ones we're going to choose. We can't spend money on everything. So we're going to have to make decisions. And that's why you're here, to help guide those decisions, to see which way you want to go. So we look at it in I look at it in two camps. There's mitigation and there's adaptation. Mitigation deals with all the sustainability issues, things that deal with the root of the problem, reducing that greenhouse gas. The adaptation deals with resiliency. We're going to have sea level rise, even if we shut off the greenhouse gases today. The cycle's already in play. So what are we going to do about it so that we don't lose the tax base, so that we don't have loss of life, so that we can continue the quality of life that we're so accustomed to? So here's where I challenge you. Think about these things and how these issues can be integrated into each aspect of the comp plan. I break it down into like 3 responses. There's engineering, there's land use, and then there's accept the inevitable and prepare. When you consider what goes in each ballpark, the key thing is how much money is it going to cost? Who's going to pay for that? And who's going to get the benefit? And this is the real balance, because you can spend a lot of money and benefit some people, or spend less money and benefit fewer people, or spend more money and benefit more people. Who pays and who gets the benefit? So let's just introduce some of the concepts that we're doing at Environmental Services. We have the retrofitting and enhancing our resiliency through infrastructure. We have pumps that can pump the water to the other side of the water control feature, or pump the water out of the street. We have one-way valves that can prevent the water from coming up the pipes. We can raise our seawalls. We can raise our roadways. We can modernize our utility. We can also enhance our natural defenses, mimic nature, as nature often knows best. We can create and invest in healthy dunes and in our beaches. And by healthy, I mean we have to not just put the sand there, but put the grass there that keeps the sand in place. We can preserve our mangroves and create these new living shorelines that mimic nature. What we do want to do is minimize these seawalls that eventually erode the beach. We can also elevate, go up, as in raising our houses, and they can be done to old houses or just simply built higher, like the picture below, this one. That house is above sea level rise. It's camouflage. There's a stairway there. We can also set back or pull back. You can actually move the house. This is Galveston, Texas. These are the 2 holdouts. Everybody else went this way. More interestingly, and this is where I challenge you to really think out of the box, we can use transfer of development rights and actually put the value in the safer places, create incentives to move development rights or building from areas that are vulnerable to areas that are safer. We can also design differently. We can design for more retention. Remember, the more we refill that aquifer, the more we keep that salt water at bay. The more water we can capture when it rains without flooding. So we can create more retention ponds and create permeability in the blocks. We can create dry retention areas for those floods. We can even build totally differently with green roofs, or simple adaptations, like creating a place where the parking lot can drain into the swale instead of putting the curb all around it. We can also landscape differently. Zero-scaping saves a lot of water. Or, once again, think out of the box. Maybe we just accept it and design and build on our water. Uh-huh. The imagination can be pretty cool. We can also, and this is a key piece of the conservation element, open space. A disaster is a disaster because humans get in the way. If it's over the open space, it has much less of an impact. So we can buy land and use it as a barrier or a buffer between us and the environment. We can also buy land to allow for the recharge and for the species to be able to find new habitat. Finally, we can accept the loss and look at the insurance opportunities. But this is really, really tricky, and I want you to think about this really carefully. We have the National Flood Insurance Program. It now insures about $5.27 billion worth of property, but the amount that it takes in every year is about $3.5 billion. And the amount that it pays out over what it picks up is about $28 billion. So under the existing insurance program, it was sort of insolvent. So what happened? People kind of got a wind of that, and now they're trying to adjust it. And the first set of adjustments are starting to happen. Premiums on flood insurance are rising, especially for pre-firm. Those are homes that were built before the flood insurance maps were created, older homes, let's say pre-78 in Florida. Non-primary residents and businesses, they will see 25% increase in their premium until it reaches the risk, actuarial risk calculation. That's taking money out of people's pockets for spending on other things. So it's already, these adjustments are beginning to happen. We need to know where our elevation is and make better decisions. And we have to think about how to adapt those properties so they don't lose their value. How can we help them? Whose responsibility is it to help them? Should the city create some incentive? Should all taxpayers pay for that? These are the decisions we're raising with you. Who in the community bears the cost and who benefits? Finally, a plug for my friend Steve, emergency management. If we know it's going to happen, so the best thing we can do is really super prepared. Preparing by communicating and having people be informed and knowing how to get out of the way. When the storm happens, being resilient, building out an emergency EOC so that we can respond to the disaster, and then rebuilding smarter afterward. So there are solutions. We can also think largely, not just Delray. We're in a 3-county area, and we have the Regional Climate Compact that came up with 110 different solutions to this problem. We signed onto a pledge to try to adopt those solutions. So let's look at them. And we have to work interlocally, because our situation isn't the same as Miami's or Fort Lauderdale's, but it's much more similar to Boca's and Boynton. So we have to talk to our neighbors. So the takeaway from this is we have to address the climate, both mitigating the greenhouse gases that cause the problem and adapting. We have to think long term for this comp plan, but act immediately. And we have to educate and engage our citizens, because we all have to make better decisions. And the more people that know about what's going on, the better informed they are, the better their decisions take into account the risk. So with that, I thank you for your time, and I hope you learned something and you'll enjoy the rest of the discussion.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Alberta Gom, from our Parks Department. Sort of a little pickup from the last presentation. I happened to catch a news show last night that showed Tangier Island in Virginia, and it showed the effect of sea level rise as it relates to that island. Unlike Florida, it's a sand island, so they've already lost almost like a third of their island, and they showed sort of at the high tides, and every street was underwater. So if you have a chance to look it up, it's Tangier Island. It really shows the effect of sea level rise.
Where's the Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, my name is Alberta. Okay, I guess I'm going to hold it. And I'm the recreation superintendent from Parks and Rec Department. I'm going to basically just go through all our sites. I'm hoping that I can hit just about everything so you can see everything. And then if you have questions later, I'll be glad to answer them. And I will have, there's maps on your table so you'll be able to see where all the parks are. Okay, the Delray Beach Parks and Recreation. The City of Delray Beach Parks and Recreation is a full-service recreation agency that provides active and passive recreation opportunities for all of its citizens. And under our department, we have basically three divisions. We have the administration, we have parks, and we have recreation. We also have the aquatic division, and then we have the golf and tennis, special events, and the marina, okay? Our operations, we have 149 employees. 82 are full-time and 67 are part-time. Our budget is over 10 million, and as you can see, we have park rangers who at night they go around and they lock the parks. They open the parks if some of them need to be opened in the morning. So we have 2 full-time and we have 2 part-time. Our goals. We have we acquire, develop, and maintain quality parks and recreation facilities. We want to improve the condition of existing parks and recreation facilities to encourage the use by many of you in the community. We update recreation programs and facilities to maximize use for all ages and cultural backgrounds. We enhance the social well-being, fitness, and cultural appreciation of residents. And most of all, promote healthy living in Delray Beach. These are our departments. We have the municipal beach, we have recreation and park maintenance. Park maintenance also includes the cemetery. We have other programs. Our programs, the out-of-school program, that is an after-school program and a summer camp program, and it's at 2 sites, the community center and Pompey Park. We have 75 children able to enroll in both sites. We do, we have educational programs, and I want to just say Anna, who just did the program before, did one for our after-school program about the rise of the water, and she brought in a little bathtub and everything. It was excellent. The kids loved it. So, and actually their pictures were at the saltwater thing, so, you know, they really did a good job. They go on a lot of trips, and they have a lot of crafts and everything. We have, and their hours in the after school during school is 2:30 to 6, and summer camp it's 7:30 to 5:30. We have our Public Art Advisory Board, and the Parks and Rec Director, she is the liaison between the board and the city. They actually receive 1.5% of capital construction, all the capital construction, over $200,000. Some of their work that they have done, here, this was a recent one that was just completed. This is the seed, and it's on the back wall of the tennis center. If you take a ride around the corner and go down there, you'll see it. It's on your right-hand side. It's beautiful. But they've done the bus shelters. They've done the Noodle on Federal Highway. They've there's a little park. It's over, I forget what it's called. But anyway, it's a little park. They've done a lot of items there. Special events, of course, we do the annual parade, holiday parade. We do Turkey Trot, Kids Fest, which was just recent. It was packed. It was a great program. It turned out really well. Sports destination. That committee is under us, and their main function is to bring sports into Delray Beach so that it would bring an economic impact to our hotels. So they want to bring in the large sports. So Here's our municipal beach. It's 1.5 miles of public beach. It includes Atlantic Dunes Park. It was Sarah Gleason was a woman, and she had donated that to us way back in what, 1871? So we have surf lessons and we have camps on the beach. That's going right now. They go all year round. So he does that all year round. Here's Atlantic Dunes Park, and here's what happened to it. It was vandalized and burnt down. This is how it used to be, and now we're working on getting quotes right now to have it rebuilt. In the meantime, one of a resident who lives in Delray Beach, who got married under the thing, did a temporary art there just recently. It was called Wedding Shoes, and he had shoes around, a little Bible, and it was just kind of cute. It was just temporary, and so it was something unique there. Our beach master plan, it will be going out for an RFP come December, and that's going to be doing the sidewalks, making them larger so that you'll be able to walk, and the showers, and the entrances way into the beach will be all redone. So that's something to look forward to. Our athletic fields. We have Pompey Park Athletic Field. We have Curry Commons Park. I'm not sure if everybody knows where that one is. It's just west of the Federal Highway by the Teen Center, so that might give you an idea. Merritt Park, that's under construction right now. It's just being turned into a multi-purpose field. Pine Grove Park, that's by Pine Grove Elementary. Plumosa Park, that's in back of the old Plumosa Park. There's a little field there. It's a baseball field. Robert P. Miller, I hope everybody knows where that is. And it's one of our largest. And then we have Seacrest Soccer in Hilltopper Stadium. That's in back of the Plumosa School of the Arts right now. Okay, so I'm only highlighting 3 because, it'd be too long to go through all of them. But Pompey Park, this is their fields. They have a baseball field, 3 baseball fields, one major. Teddy's Field can be used for major baseball playing. We have basketball courts. Our baseball team there is the American Little League, and it's run by Eddie and Yvonne Odom, who, if it wasn't for them, that program is just a great program. So, and she's sitting right here someplace. I don't know where she is, but it's a wonderful program. And when they have their open play the first time they play, if you can get a chance, just go out there and take a look at those kids. They're really good. So that's Pompey Park. Then we have Robert P. Miller, and I have some statistics on it, but they're written, so I can't remember them all. But that's a big field. We have the Miracle League there. We have Little League. We have adult softball little leagues. We have adult kickball. We have Little Fenway there. We have Sergio Field. Anybody know who Sergio is? Fred Sergio. He worked for the city it's going to be 50 years, and he's 100. So, that's one of the things. Here's Seacrest Soccer Complex and Hilltopper Stadium. That's over in back of the, like I said before, the Plumosa School of the Arts. We have soccer there, lacrosse. They have fitness going on there, football. That's the Rock's home. Football, their home is the Hilltopper Stadium. And that has a concession stand, it has a press box. NAIA will be playing in there at the end of this month, at the end of November. So that's one tournament that's coming into town. And I think this is the Hilltopper. There is a concession stand that has the Rocks football man on it. So, but anyway, we didn't get that picture. So, our recreation centers. We have the Teen Center, Community Center, Pompey Parks Recreation. We have Catherine Strong Park, and we have Veterans Park. The Teen Center, it has a skate park there, and we offer skate lessons and camps, and we have inside we have a multi-room, a large room there with billiards tables and computers for the kids, and we also have a recording studio in there. And they have the Dream Youth Council, so There's about 20 kids involved in that. They do the cooking there. They teach them how to cook. They teach them just social skills and anything else. And they do a lot of work for the city. They're out there at Christmas on the parade and everything else. So that's our teen center and skate park. The community center, that's right by the city hall. We have pickleball there. Just thought I'd let everybody know about pickleball. That's in our gym. We have the out of school program there. We have cheerleading competitions, youth and adult basketball leagues. We have Zumba, karate. We house the administration offices for all Parks and Rec. Our offices are in there. We have 3 multi-purpose rooms that can be used for rent or for whatever. Pompey Park is is named after a long-time Delray Beach resident, C. Spencer Pompey. It covers over 17.5 acres of land. And this picture does not do justice to Pompey Park. They have a large gym over there. It's twice the size of the community centers. They have a multi-purpose room with a stage and a kitchen. They have a computer lab. They do have this senior club, which is over 120 people now at that. And they do have the out-of-school program there also. And they're starting a mentoring program for the teens in the afternoon. So that's all coming into play. Catherine Strong Park, that's on the southwest side of Delray Beach. And Catherine Strong is named after Catherine Strong. She was the first lady mayor, okay? And before that, before this came into play, I think it was 1980-something, Catherine Strong came into play. I think that's what the date was. But anyway, it used to be called Tucker Field. There was a recreation center there, Tucker Place, Tucker Field. It was named after one of our recreation supervisors who's previous passed away. But anyway, it's now Catherine Strong Park. It has the spray park. We have pavilions there. We also have 5 modulars that was given to us from the Palm Beach County. It used to be the Head Start program, but we house Delray Students First, and C. Ron Allen has got a modular there, and then we have our tennis in there also, and then we utilize it for our programs. We're going to have a computer room in there, so hopefully that'll grow. Veterans Park is over on the Intercoastal, and that has lawn bowling, shuffleboard, chess, senior bridge, and that has an open multi-purpose room which, you know, is able to be rented out. We have a kitchen there. Okay. Our pools, we have Pompey Park Pool and Delray Swim Club. The Delray Swim Club is over by Lavers. And here are they. But we have a swim team. We have the swim lessons, lifeguard classes, water safety classes, water fitness, scuba diving. And I think, Gerard, are you doing a boat? Something with boating? Small craft safety. Okay. So come on over. Okay, nature areas, marina and the boat ramps. Yes, we do take care of all of that too. We have the marina, we have the Delray Oaks, Leon Weeks, Knowles Park, Mangrove Park, and Lakeview Park. Delray Oaks natural area. That's over by Miller Park, Robert P. Miller. It's right over just south of the park itself. It's right there. It has a playground and it has the scrubs in the back there. They do need a little renovating right now, so we're going to be working on that soon. But it has a parking lot of can walk in the back there. It's very nice. Oh, that's Leon Weeks I'm talking about. Delray Oaks is over on Congress Avenue, and it's split between Palm Beach County and Delray Beach. So that's just a nice area to walk around in. Okay, the marina. We have 24 slips there, and the residents that live there, they have a restroom with a handicap, separate restroom, showers, ice. They have a laundry room in there. They have pump out stations at each of their slips, which is pretty good. A lot of people don't have that, but it's good. So they have that. Right now, we usually are 100% full at that because we have a waiting list. But right now we're not, because we're going to be going into construction, and we have kept 2 slips open so that we can maneuver the residents back from one slip to the other. Our boat ramps. I got to remember where they are. Okay, this is Mangrove Park. That's the Federal Highway. That's like right across from McDonald's on Federal Highway, South Federal Highway. This is Lakeview Park. That's off of Lake Ida, down in Lake Ida area. And this is Knowles Park. That's just north of Mangrove Park. That's the one with the noodle. Okay, we have 20 community parks, and here's the listing. And at the end of this presentation and on your tables, you'll have the spots where they're at. Okay, we also have the golf clubs. We have the Delray Beach Golf Club here, and Lakeview. Okay, that's a smaller. Here's some pictures. They do adult clinics. They have leagues, lessons, tournaments, Nine and Dine, banquets, as you can see. The tennis center. We have the Delray Swim and Tennis Club. That's by Lavers. Does everybody know where Lavers is, or am I just talking old hat? Okay. And Delray Beach Tennis Center. Of course, everybody knows where that is. So we do a lot. We have a lot of tournaments. We have 2 tournaments. We have Chris Everett coming up right now, and then the ATP in February. So, and then this has the tennis there too. Well, there's our tennis center. Lessons, clinics, mixes, leagues, camps, tournaments. And there's our Delray Beach Memorial Garden. There's a lovely entrance. Okay, what's happened here? We have minimal space, open space in Delray Beach for us to do anything else with, to do any playgrounds or anything. But we do have some space, so what do you think we need, Adam? This one is on Congress Avenue. That's on Lake Ida and Congress Avenue. There's a big space there. There's a playground there, and there's the May Bolin is on there, and here's that land. So what can we need to utilize that by doing something with it. Okay. This is Barwick Park. That's a retention pond kind of, but it's still an area that could be used. Right now they play soccer on it, on Saturday and Sundays, and it's not a soccer field, but we could do something with it. Then we have Catherine Strong Park. This is on the east side of Catherine Strong Park, and it is a retention pond there, but there has been talk about putting either a building, football, soccer, or something there in the near future, so keep your eyes open for that. Right now at Catherine Strong, we have, this is all Catherine Strong here. This is I-95 here. And this little piece of property is empty, and we were going to do a community orchard with Mark Cassini, and I seen him sitting here. He's in the back there. So, and a group of people, we're looking to do a nice little orchard of trees, fruit trees, so people can eat. So that's our plans there. We're working on that right now. Here's all our park spaces. As you can see, they're all basically on the east side. What do we have on the west side? Thank you. Oh, I held this. Huh?
Thanks, Alberta. All right, now it's your turn, okay? What we're going to do now is take a 15-minute break. There's coffee and snacks set up over there. Please wander over, get something to drink, get something to eat. When we come back, we will not be coming back over to this area. You'll be coming back and sitting at a round table. So your test for tonight is you have to read upside down, look at the number that's on your name tag, and that tells you what table you're sitting at when we come back from our break, okay? So we'll call you back in about 15 minutes. Thank you. So what I need you to do as a table now is to go pick 2 or 3 of your top items that you discussed tonight. Now, please understand that we are taking all the tablets with us. We will capture everything. All of it will be included in our notes. But just for this period of reporting back, I need you to think and talk amongst yourselves at your table. What are the top 2 or 3 items that you really want to present out to the whole group, okay? So take a few minutes, talk about your top ideas, and then we'll start reporting back in by table. So again, what we're doing now is I need just some highlights of your presentation. I need two or three. For Amy's table, it would be 4 points of things you need to report back, okay? I need you all, whoever's reporting, I need you to come up front here. As we have been announcing all along, we are recording all of these presentations, so in order to capture the audio and the video, we'll have all the presentations come up this way, okay?
Jamil. Okay, coastal zone, table 1. There are 3 items that we identified. The words, you guys will figure out what the words, the recommendations will be, but preserve the beach area. Preserve, okay? And in particular, we talked about the dune. Great things that are happening now and have been happening with the dune and preserving the dune and enhancing the dune. And this also applies to anything in the comprehensive plan that extends to development and redevelopment in the beach or in the coastal zone. Team members, raise your hand if I don't say this accurately. No relaxation in the LDRs allowing any development or redevelopment is not already limited in the beach area. Did I say that right, table 1? Yeah, okay. Number 2, maintain development restrictions in the coastal zone. So very similar to what I just said. If you want to translate that into height and density, feel free. But it's basically, we believe that the coastal zone should not be any more crowded with brick and concrete and mortar than it is. Number 3, use the LDRs to encourage low water landscaping. And that captures education. Before you can tell people they're not allowed to water more than once a week, or to tell them that they can't water at all, there's an education component of that. So, number 2, conservation. Number 1, water conservation is something the city has embarked on very, very well with the use of recycled water. It's, for those of you who don't know, the golf course here has been using recycled water for its landscaping for a number of years. And much, if not all, of the barrier island has recycled water being used for irrigation. So that's a good thing. You want more of that. Expand that as much as possible. Number 2, we think it'd be a good idea to somehow institute a program that would encourage private property owners to donate their land. Make it deed restricted, whatever sort of bells and whistles need to be attached to encourage them to do that, in particular along the beach. It'd be welcome, yes. So there was laughter at our table too when that was suggested, Alberta, you're right. Number 3, is this too loud? Create incentives for residents, individual residents or communities, commercial developments to conserve water. Create incentives, financial incentives, development incentives, whatever it is. But when someone says, aha, I can get something I want, by doing something that's conservation minded, and we should try to come up with ways to do that. Open space and recreation. Retain city land and facilities. I've been asked to say, such as the golf course, yes? Tennis center? Your house, Yvonne, is that? No. Anyway, the idea is to make it a formal policy to hang on to city-owned physical assets. And we got cut off because Mark was in such a hurry. Develop a competition between nearby cities that somehow come up with rewards, prizes, whatever it is for conservation efforts. And that's, we don't have a whole lot to add to that besides what I just said. A lot of people smarter than me and Mark, I'm sorry, but they're out there, to come up with a way to encourage cities. They have this kind of a competition. You can count whatever you want and measure things, but when one city outdoes the other, it'll be a way to pull in the residents and even pull in kids in schools. And, you know, when you get the kids, then you got them going. More educational events for to encourage people to do things such as taking advantage where they can, growing their own food, planting, any kind of agriculture activities around where they live, art and dance. Dancing in the garden, that's right. When you want to grow grapes and you get out there and dance with bare feet, you're killing two birds with one stone. Thank you very much. Do you want this to stay here?
So now you can all have in your heads the picture of Kevin dancing in the grape fields. Just go ahead and let that sink in a bit. All right, next one up. Rebecca, you want to come up?
Hey, good evening. I'm Rebecca Lovelace, and I represent Table 9. Whoop, whoop. So I'm going to focus on two major themes that we talked about. The first one is green rooftops, and also trying to really integrate the parks and the recreation that we have going on in Delray. If we could really have an incentive for businesses to either have a green rooftop or solar, we have, there was a recommendation that France, they're doing this right now, something we might consider. Also, if we could start to unite the parks. We do have a lot of wonderful parks, but a lot of people don't visit them. If there was some type of bike path, we are putting a lot of money into addressing like the neighborhoods. Recently, we've kind of started putting in, I'm nervous. Recently, we started putting in some one-way streets, repaving. There's a lot of like abandoned streets that they're starting to really take a look at and improve. If we could somehow unite that with the parks, I think we could really create a very interesting like biker community, bicyclist. Let's see. The other big topic that came up quite a bit on Table 9 was the sober homes. This is a big issue with a lot of people that live here. I think a lot of the parks are becoming unsafe. I think that a lot of the neighborhoods are losing their value because obviously more homes are being sold to these companies. I think there is something that Delray can do. We also just don't want to be known for retirees and rehabs. I think if we can really change the vision of Delray, if we can bring people like myself, bring artists, bring young millennials, and you know, there's a lot of great things that we can do, slowly start to turn the image of this town. So, thank you.
Good job. Who's up next? All right.
We had a lot of discussions that predated the request for the big three, but one of the things we came up with was actually on our prior page was echoed what they said about the bike paths and connecting the parks. We concentrated on changing LDRs near the vulnerable areas, near the coast or wherever the low-lying areas are, to request higher elevations and new regulations that would just support the kind of building that will be more sustainable for a long time. And in sending transfer of the development rights, which Anna spoke about, for people and more building inland. And then improving, as I said, the connectivity of the bike paths and transportation options. But we also had discussions similar to what Rebecca talked about with regard to the sober home issues and the encroachment of some of those situations on neighborhoods. And there are several people actually at our table that have moved away from the downtown because of that. So whatever we can do, I know that there are different schools of thought about what's permissible under the law. I think that's it for us. Who's next?
Sure, yeah. I don't really need to, it's just these three. So our number one was at the parks. We're here and they do not have sufficient shelter for when the kids, they're playing and the thunderstorms or rain starts. So they need sufficient shelter to take during that time, or waiting for their parents to pick them up. I think it was pretty much at most of the parks. Some of them have it, and not all of them do. The other one is our beaches, keeping them clean. And this is something I've thought about for a long time, but I walk on the beach in the morning, and the amount of trash is just unbelievable. And I take a plastic bag with me. I pick up what I can. But one of the things that I really think could help would be beach toys. So I don't know how many of you see the beach toys that are, people just, they leave them, the kids are on the beach, they forget them. So I thought a fun idea would be to have a beach toy lending library at each entrance. So some type of, say, mesh box that was sponsored by a business. So when you go to the beach, you can take beach toys. When you leave the beach, you put them in there rather than leaving them just laying around, floating in the water. And then the other, was our third choice the Atlantic? Yeah, trying to make downtown a more walkable area than a drivable area. So closing Atlantic Avenue from Swinton to Federal. I think we need to change the mindset downtown. People need to walk more. And it's something they really want to do, but people love just getting in their car and driving up and down Atlantic Avenue when they really can take the bypass or Uber to downtown. But if we closed it and made it strictly a pedestrian walkway, I think we all think it would improve the downtown. Those are our top three.
Okay, strengths. The beach, the natural beauty of Delray Beach, the golf course, the marina. Now, we more or less focused on the opportunities. Every place you go to has weaknesses. We focus on the opportunities that Delray has. The tennis center, upgrade the existing facility, make it more appealing for outside venues to come in, concerts, pickleball, which is becoming huge, viral, get more athletes, professional athletes to come to our facilities and enjoy our facilities like we do. Number two, urban pedestrian crossings, bike access. We are trying to go green, cut out the emissions, as someone said earlier, as far as traffic downtown and getting to and from downtown, and also just around the city in general. What are we, 16 square miles, something like that, or 12 square miles, something like that? And we have a lot of people here driving a lot of vehicles that we can, hey, get on a bike, start walking. Also, pocket parks. We have some. A lot of you don't even know where they are. We could definitely use more, have more green space and less asphalt space. That would be huge. And our website, we have so many different websites telling you where to go that no one knows where to go. We need to get that together. Okay, permeable surfaces. Again, let's get rid of some of this asphalt. Let's get some of this green back in here. Let's make it happen. Keep Delray green. That's it. All right.
Well done, brother. All right, who's up next? Oh, so fast. It's brutal up here.
Thank you. Okay, a lot of the items we touched on have already been addressed, but I'll just hit the highlights. So as far as our coastal area, well, as it goes for all of our natural areas, which there's very few of actually, is maintaining the current density, preserving the natural resources. So we have a grad student from FAU working down with us, and you know, there's turtles that get crushed on A1A every year. So if we're going to be stewards of our natural environment, we need to take care of that. So the lighting, a barrier, something to prevent those turtles from getting up on A1A and getting crushed. Keep the zoning where it is over on the beach. While there is an argument to be made that higher density is more environmentally friendly because it takes less resources, I don't think there's an appetite for that over on the beach. We don't want to see high rises there. So putting them in the proper space. If we're going to have density, let's put it somewhere else. Taking care of our natural areas where they exist throughout the city. Quick back at the napkin math, there's less than 0.5% of the city which is still in its natural state. So there's very, very, very few natural areas left, really 3 or 4. So preserving those, as well as maybe taking some of the open space that we have now and creating more of a natural environment in those spaces. There's still a lot of open space, it's just not natural. So maybe unused or underutilized golf courses. That's a trend right now, is more of a natural golf course, or city easements, or areas that we can possibly reclaim as natural areas. Going with Parks and Rec, this has been talked about also, but connecting the parks a little bit better, increasing some of the programming in the parks that are underutilized, and then communicating this out to the residents, because I'm sure there's a lot of people here that learned stuff tonight that you didn't know. There's 66,000 people that live within the city limits of Delray Beach. And we've got, what, 100 here tonight. So there's a lot of people that don't know what's going on in the city and how to market that and how to communicate that out to those people that are interested and could really contribute to the city. Again, public safety, making it safer for bikes, have separated bike lanes from this, have better east, west, and north-south corridors for bike lanes, and walking, really, to be honest. And then better use of existing space. We showed they showed earlier about a urban orchard concept, and why couldn't we do that in all of our parks and a lot of our open space? So you grow food, it beautifies the area, and you use the space better. So that's all we have.
All right, Jacqueline, you can take it now. As you guys are listening to his presentations, can you start hearing some themes coming out, some common themes?
Thanks, Mark. So I have Tom Fleming to thank for the very shorthand notes, which I haven't a clue how I'm going to be directed from this. But just to, thanks, Tom. You're really setting me up to win here, buddy. So I think all of the ideas that have been presented have been phenomenal. And I moved to Delray in April, and I think that this city has such creativity, such imagination, and has such capacity to become really an innovator for the rest of Florida. And so I would encourage all of us as we engage in this process over the next 18 to 24 months to really see how we can take a leadership role, really sort of think about what does the future look like by blending young and old to come together and think about what the world should look like for all of us. So really excited to be here. And our ideas kind of all run together, but a pedestrian-friendly parks, this has been a common theme that has been talked about. Safety is a huge issue. This is something that we feel is very important, that we feel secure walking on the sidewalks and that we're not going to be hit or harmed. Also in terms of our aging population, that our older adults are much more vitally active, and so maybe the parks that we're living with now are not adequate in terms of this shift in our population. So if there were pedestrian-friendly spaces that were safe, that allowed for an active lifestyle, as well as were enriching, so that they were designed in such a way that would allow for social interaction between uncommon people, or would allow us to experience what would be mentally stimulating opportunities. So how can we be together in these walk spaces in a way that allows you to either be in solitude or it allows you to really connect with somebody else? The beach, this was something that we felt is really important to conserve in a natural fashion. So how can we perhaps get children involved to start planting some of the grass and start to have them involved in the conservation process? Also, the environment, how can we use environmental design as a way of art and sort of reflecting back sort of the natural world to us as part of our own well-being and a sense of mindfulness with nature. And then, of course, nature. What did we say about nature that I haven't really said? Nature art. So that's really sort of designing with the environment and being in harmony with the environment. So is there anything else that I forgot, Tom? Sorry. Anything else that we, okay, perfect, excellent, thanks.
Good job. Yep. Who's up? Who's up?
Hi. Our table began by discussing play, and our first recommendation was to increase outreach and marketing of our parks and the opportunity to play. This would include programs and activities citywide. Regarding the beach, we'd like to encourage dune preservation, not just on the public beach, but on the entire barrier island. We also agree with others who have mentioned that we'd like to create more natural habitat. We addressed sustainability, and we would encourage the installation of solar power with financial incentives. And that was our hot items.
I think I'm wrapping up. Is there anybody else left? Anyway, table 4, we came up with 4 big bullet points, and it just seems like this is kind of encapsulating what a lot of people have said. You know, I've heard John Miller and DJ in particular that kind of captured what we said. Is the challenges that we saw is we've got to take the existing facilities and enhance the security and the accessibility to continue to have these things used. If those things deteriorate, then the facilities we have now are just going to get less and less used, and that's not what we want. We see that we need to coordinate better with governmental groups to enhance facilities within our city that are being underutilized. For example, the schools. Many of them are not being used at night. They're not being used in off hours or off days. If we were able to use those, then we would be facilitating more of our youth and our elderly population. Adapting and adjusting to future modes of transportation. That's something that I brought up at our table that I see as the big thing over the next couple decades, is that we're going to see alternative means of transportation. How many of you all came here in an automobile tonight? Everybody? Okay. We all drove here in an automobile, one person probably. Okay. more and more transportation that is just for a single person to be able to get around, whether it be a bicycle, of course, the traditional things of walking. But look at today of what we have available as people movers. I see more of that enhancing our ways to get around and use our facilities. And secondarily, maybe we don't need the amount of parking. I worked for the Parks Department for 3 decades. And we talked about this, is that look at the amount of space that's taken up in our parks by asphalt. If we could just reduce that by 25%, think how much more green space we would have. And the things that Anna talked about, global warming and things like that, would at least diminish, okay? So I think Delray is probably better than most cities. We have, alternative means of transportation, but we just don't use them enough. And so we got to think about using those and getting around to our facilities. And then the enhanced use of our existing facilities. In other words, go back, look at these master plans, look at what we're doing, and adapt to maybe the things that may be coming up in the future or that we're seeing now hitting us. I know the 30 years I worked for the Parks Department, the traditional recreational uses evolved. I mean, look how many techno toys we have out there today, and people using facilities in a way that we never thought of, 3 decades ago. So that's what we see is those are the challenges we have, at least in this current comp plan.
Good evening. Thank you all very much for coming out. I think we all heard a lot of great ideas. Maybe give yourselves a round of applause. I know the best comment I heard is Delray is great. That was awesome, DJ. Thank you. A lot of, Mark says, some common themes: maintain, preserve, safety, connectivity, conservation of resources, and even I like Jacqueline's point about leadership. Delray has been a leader, whether it's in the redevelopment of our downtown or just in how we work through our issues in our neighborhoods. And I think we can continue to do that. Check the website often, alwaysdelray.com. Your notes and the notes from this meeting as well as the video will be posted within the next week to 2 weeks. We have a steering committee coming up December 12th where the group, and I want to thank the members for coming out tonight, we'll be discussing all of the great ideas that came out of this meeting as well as getting us set for the next community workshop, which will be January 9th, where we will be discussing the theme work. And that involves our education, economic development, and intergovernmental coordination. So I encourage all of you to come to that meeting as well and invite your neighbors and friends and everyone else so we get a much larger group and really expand the discussion. I want to thank the steering committee members again for coming out. I also want to thank the staff who were your facilitators tonight. The folks from Calvin Giordano, thank you as well. And also look out for the survey, web-based survey coming out in the next month or so, which will talk about all of the 4 themes, but also be another opportunity for some additional input. We also have an email address, always delray@mydelraybeach.com. So if you get an idea in the middle of the night and you want to send Mark an email, he's always checking it. I encourage you to do that. And again, thank you very much for coming out.